Hello, this is Matthew Robert Payne. This is called Visiting Job in Heaven. And just going to start in his house. I was taking a while to get my coffee, and it's taken a while to focus on his house and find a place in his house that we could talk about. And I got distracted and went to another website and spent an hour and a half there, and then concentrated again, find a place in his house. And I found a picture cinema that seats 100 people. And Job was known to suffer, and I feel that he invites people that have had a hard life around to his place to the movies. There's movie cinemas in heaven, in the main concourse of heaven. You can go to the movies there. But I feel at this movie theatre here, Job gives an introduction to the movie and does a speech after the movie. So he picks selected movies that have got a message, and does a speech before the movie and after it. So this is like a movie theatre, which is a ministry. It's got popcorn and chocolate ice creams and sodas and all sorts of stuff at the movie theatre. It's really plush, but it's a ministry. It's something he runs as a ministry. It can be a comedy or it can be a drama, but he's got a select purpose, and that would be a really good ministry to plan your message around a movie. And we all know there's plenty of great movies out there that you could do a good message around. So I've never thought of having a movie theatre as a place of ministry, but some churches run in movie theatres, but they don't show movies. So that's the inside of his house. Outside of the movie theatre is a coffee shop, and it's looking similar to my house. Job actually might be living in my house. It seems that he is. I've described my house in books before, and Job may be living in my house. But otherwise it's awfully similar to my house. The coffee shop has got a couple of coffee machines and pastries, and it's got a kitchen out the back that serves, and it's got 100 seats for 100 people, about 50 people, and it backs onto the Crystal Sea. There's second story. It's on the second story, and it's a balcony over the Crystal Sea. And if you go further along, it's got a 50-metre pool there. So I don't know why we're meeting Job in my house, but that's what he wanted to show us today. So this is the end of book 2, Meeting Biblical Saints in Heaven. And we've ended up in the second story of my house. I'm not sure if it's Job's house or not. It's very similar to my house in heaven. What are you doing in heaven? As you know, my story in the Bible is a story that would have motivated a lot of people throughout the ages, would have given people a lot of motivation and encouraged a lot of people that they're not really suffering compared to what I went through. And there's a lot of people who have really suffered in life that have read my story and been encouraged that they too suffer like I did. And so my story is really encouraging. I like to speak to those people when they make it to heaven, and I make up groups of those people and bring them to the movie theatre and play a good film to them and encourage them in motivational sort of speaks. I have the theatre full twice a day with new people, and you can imagine there's millions of people in heaven. And they've got a good selection of films, both films that were filmed on Earth with actors from Earth, and films that were filmed in heaven. Whatever the case, we've got actors and actresses that starred in those films here in heaven, and we've got actors and actors that starred in the heavenly films in heaven, and they can speak after the film and speak into the film and have part of the presentation. And we do that. It's a multimedia presentation. We play the film. We film what I say beforehand. We play the film, and we film what is said after the film, and the people walk out with DVD of the presentation, or they can just go to their YouTube and upload. They can play a copy of that on their computers at home. They can broadcast it on their TV at home and re-watch the presentation. It's a powerful ministry, and I like to minister to all sorts of people. All sorts of people have had suffering in their life and had a hard life. People who've been in heaven longer and have coped and got over their trauma, they're growing in their faith, and there's other messages that need to be reinforced in their lives, and we can increase them with another film and another speech. And I'm very good at, I very much love the medium of film, and I've watched hundreds of films, and I've got friends that come around and watch films with me, and I do a lot of research by watching films. And when I watch a film, I know what sort of audience to bring in, and I formulate my message. I've got a production studio in the house that I use to do clips of the films and speak broadcasts. And so I've got like a podcast that I play on the internet here, and I produce it in the film studio. It's actually my house. He's using my house. I wondered why my house had been created and I wasn't there. This where I do my videos from, this is the third story of my house. the background on the Zoom video is where my parents live, and that's the third story. So that's a view out into the Crystal Sea, and on the second story is where this film, this picture theatre is, and he's got TV studio and radio recording studio and a recording sound studio in the house too, on the second story. So people come to the cafe and have something to eat. They go in and get served at the picture theatre, and go in and have a soda and watch a film, and then have the speech, and then come out and maybe have something in the cafe on the way out and leave. So it seems that my house is being used to full capacity. I've often seen a couple of baristas at the barista station. I wondered why they were in my house. But a lot of people in heaven come and hang out in my house. So Job uses it. So that must have been me speaking. So Job continues to speak. I am increasing people's faith and encouraging people in their faith and encouraging in their walk with God. And that's what I'm doing in heaven. What do you like about heaven? It's been said before, but I really enjoy the trajectory that people are on in heaven. People arrive in heaven with little knowledge, and their knowledge increases. People arrive in heaven lonely, and they've come from earth with no friends and a life of rejection. And in heaven, they find friends, and they're loved, and they're loved into wholeness. People arrive in heaven having accomplished everything in ministry and being the top of the world in ministry. And they find when they get to heaven, there's people who are a whole lot more advanced than them. And they find that they're not at the top of the pecking order, and they find some humility. People arrive in heaven who have got there by the skin of their teeth, and like the Apostle Paul says, and they've just arrived in heaven, they've just barely made it. And then a spark is lit underneath them, and they get on fire for Jesus, and they really increase in knowledge. So I enjoy the trajectory that people are set on in heaven. And it's remarkable to see the wonderful work that the Holy Spirit achieves in people's lives here in heaven. The Holy Spirit is poured out on earth, but he designs and runs heaven, and he really organizes heaven in a lovely way. And everyone in heaven is directed by the Holy Spirit, and their lives are ordered by the Holy Spirit. People in heaven walk in the Holy Spirit and are directed by the Holy Spirit, and Holy Spirit has control. While people are submitted to the Holy Spirit, their life is full of freedom. And it seems contradictory. It seems like it doesn't exist. You'd think if you have control of your own life, then you'd be free, but you're actually free by doing the will of God in your life, and people in heaven are more aligned to God's will in their life. So I also enjoy meeting people. I'm somewhat of it's somewhat of a hero in the wrong way in people's eyes. People want to meet me, and they know I suffered. There's a lot of wisdom in the book of Job. Not many people know that I was really wealthy and used to be like the government social security in my city. I used to supply the poor with finances. I used to help people who were being taken advantage of. I used to rescue people from being abused. Pensioners and people who are old used to leave me their heritage, used to leave me their inheritance. And I was like a combination of a church and a government in my city before I was taken down. So people don't understand that about me. Job chapter 29, and we'll put that in the book. Right here, you can read in the book what Job 29 says, and in the video, I just suggest you go and look up Job 29 after this video and have a read of the sort of person I was. I was no one to feel sorry for. I was certainly one of the most righteous people that ever walked the earth, and I've got a real interest in people. I've got a real love for people, and my suffering born out compassion, but I already had a compassion for people before God allowed Satan to strike me down. And there's a real lesson in the book of Job that Satan is on a leash, and he only gets permission to attack off God. So not everyone enjoys the book of Job. It contravenes, argues with their faith in some aspects. And people don't like to think that God could allow Satan to attack you, but that's what happened. So I really love how people can be set on a trajectory in heaven, going from the least and the last to the highest and the best. There's people that arrived in heaven a couple of 100 years ago that are leading heaven now. There's people who've arrived in heaven, like Michael Jackson, who has won awards with his songs in heaven and competing with the thousands of other recording artists. There's people who've arrived in heaven just last year who've written a book and blessed people of heaven. Bob Payne, Matthew's father, is writing his third book, and he's only been up there a couple of years. He never knew he had it in him. but he wrote his first book about the history of Australians at war. That was a favourite subject of his while he was on Earth. We started with him with a favourite subject, and then we moved him on to write a collection of prophecies that have been spoken over America. And he collated a whole lot of prophecies that were spoken over America, and he published it. And the people of heaven come to understand what's going to happen in America, and allows them to pray and intercede for America based on what's going to happen. And now he's into the third chapter of the book on the 54 parables of Jesus, and he's working on that with Peter. So here's a person who didn't have a gift of writing that now has a gift of writing, and he's working with Matthew's scribe angel Bethany, and he's working with Peter, working on a book on the parables of Jesus as they relate to the people of heaven. So anything is possible, and he's only been there 2 years, and he's on his third book. And he's going to have to write a book a month to catch up to Matthew, but he may never catch up to Matthew. But his book on the parables is going to be a really good book, and the book on the future of America would be a wonderful book if someone could see the pages of that book and bring that book to Earth. That would be a wonderful book to see. So people can grow and be used effectively in heaven. You could be a chef and leave Earth and go straight into a job being used as a chef in heaven. Food is the same in heaven. Vegetables are the same, and all food is pretty much made out of light, and so animals aren't killed. But as we said in another book, fish are caught in boats with hooks, and they're released, and the hook doesn't hurt the fish. So heaven is a wonderful place. It allows people to reach their full potential, and it allows healing. If you've had a hard life, a difficult life on earth, there'll be years enough for healing and total healing of your spirit and your soul. And you'll reach a stage in heaven where you'll be healthy, and you'll be doing what you're destined to do, and you'll be totally happy about going to work each day, and you'll be learning about Jesus and growing closer to Jesus each day and God the Father, and you'll go into worship, and you'll enjoy the worship because your life will be totally together and totally healed, and you'll be totally happy and contented and fulfilled, and you'll have friends and family and people around you that love you and support you and encourage you. And it just sounds so different to Matthew's life on earth. And it sounds such an exciting place to go. And as Matthew does these books, he sort of finds himself pining for heaven. And I want to share with you that Matthew's got 3 more books to go. that he's planning to do. He's planning to do a book of 9 musicians in heaven. He's planning to do a book of 18, two books of 9 people who are saints that have passed on to heaven since biblical times. And so he'll have 2 books of saints that passed on to heaven, but they weren't in the Bible. So it should be interesting for you. So there'll be 5 books altogether for you to go. What's this format? A place in the saint's house for you to look at. An understanding of what the saint is doing in heaven, an understanding of what the saint loves in heaven, and a message from the saint for the people of earth, what the saint wants people of earth to understand. So my message for you is please understand that suffering is only temporary, and you can be in extreme suffering. And Matthew knows a couple of people that suffer in an extreme way. People with their condition have suicided before, and they tend to hold on. Matthew is a bit of a weakling when it comes to pain, and he freely admits that, and he can't understand how his friends hold on without suicide. And many people who've had a hard life suicide, and many suicides end up in heaven, much to people's disagreement. It's not a carnal sin. It's not a sin that will divorce you from coming to heaven, even though Catholics preach that that's the case. They just keep people in torment who are tormented souls. But I encourage you to look to the book of Job, and look to other people's testimonies who've suffered greatly to find inspiration. You can find inspiration in Matthew's books. You can read Matthew's book, His Redeeming Love, for a history of Matthew's life up until 8 years ago. And you can see that he suffered and had a hard life, and had trials. And one of the answers to suffering is reading books from other people who've suffered and are continuing to suffer. And that's what's so good about books. And you can read an account of what's happened to them, and be encouraged. You can be encouraged reading through Job 29, and it'll be printed in the book. And as you read that, you can read what I came from and what I would have went back to. I was a pre-incarnate Jesus. I was like Jesus Christ in the Old Testament. And I really enjoy my life here. I love giving to people. Heaven is all about giving, and your life should become something of a giver. Even if you can't do many things that were suggested by Matthew, by the saints through Matthew, even if you're just a reader of books, posting positive reviews on Amazon, an amazing thing to do. When an author releases a new book, oftentimes they don't have reviews on their book. If you're one of the first people to review the book, your review will stay on the first page, and it'll get votes and stay on the first page. So a good way to develop a bit of a name for yourself is to look out for authors' books as they come available, and read the books and write yourself a good review. And that way you can make a difference in people's lives. That's one simple way that doesn't cost you a lot. And even if your book is on, even if your review is on the 30th page, it gives you practice in writing reviews, and there's a real art form to writing reviews, and you really encourage the writer, and you also convince the readers to read your review. And people can click on an option, see latest reviews. So on the second page, they can read your review. If it was posted today, it would be the first review on the second page if people click that button. So it's possible people are reading your review. Put a lot of time into your reviews. And if you learn something from these books, write reviews on Amazon. If you got this book from Amazon, do Matthew a favor and do the saints who spoke a favor, and vote for which saint you believe was the best to hear. Write a review on Amazon, and let that be the start of the reviews that you start to write for people on Amazon. If you enjoyed what I had to say, write a review and say that you liked what Job had to say. God bless.